My video for April the 18th, 2018 is entitled Delayed Fulfillment of Promises Continues. Despite continuing lack of substantial evidence that real change is occurring, I continue to take my hopium on a daily basis. What choice do I have? Failure to believe there is a real God who loves us would only leave me in the depths of despair. Yes, I do realize that for the so-called cabal, the ascent of truth is devastating. They have, after all, hung on to their delusion of power and control literally for millennia. They have planned to take over the entire world for generations, yet people like me, visionaries indeed, hang on to promises of an enantiodromia, which is a principle introduced by psychiatrist Carl Jung, that the superabundance of any force inevitably produces its opposite. Certainly, as I see it, the energy that has dominated our planet must be reversed if humanity is to survive. It would seem the dark forces plan on making that happen, which is why they create cloned robots to serve themselves. Will they succeed, or will the promises be fulfilled at long last? I've lived my entire life since I can remember thinking. I've always believed that I was here for a purpose. And as I've said in other videos, my parents told me that before I was even conceived, before they got married, they promised their firstborn to God. They dedicated me to the service of what I believe the loving Creator is supposed to be. Now, I don't understand how a loving Creator would have allowed millennia of abuse of creation. And it has only escalated in our generation, which is why I believe, as Carl Jung said, that we need a reverse flow of energy. We need the energy of domination and control to be reversed, and we need to develop one of cooperation, one where there can actually be love demonstrated and realized. But the promises, we've been hearing them for so long, and they don't happen. There's such an imbalance of wealth in the world. And of course, the imbalance of wealth creates power for those who hold the wealth and don't allow others to get it. There are people in various places in the world that I would give anything if I could be empowered enough and enriched enough to be able to help them and help raise them out of poverty, where they could even think in terms of higher possibilities. But it's really hard when you don't see a way out. It's hard to think in terms of higher possibilities. It's hard to hope. And that's why I call it hopium. And others have, I didn't make that word up. Others coined that word before me. But it's taking a mental drug or a spiritual drug, not a literal drug, but something to build our confidence enough to keep us going from day to day. And many of us, of course, take it because we don't want to see the world that is envisioned by these demonic elite powers that only think in terms of how much we can accumulate for ourselves and drink the energy or feed off the energy of despair that we produce in those that we steal from. And all of us have had our birthright taken. And they get the proceeds of our birthright while we suffer generation after generation after generation. And we've done it mostly in ignorance. I don't think that for most of human history, enough humans have even been awake to see a higher possibility. This is what it is, so let's make the best of it. I don't want to make the best of a bad situation. I want to have a good situation. What's wrong with that? Is there anything wrong with wanting a world where we cooperate with each other, where we actually try to help each other succeed instead of trying to keep each other down? I mean, everything in our world, if you haven't noticed, seems to be backwards in the sense that it doesn't help us. It doesn't help the majority of people. And yet there are many people that have jumped on the bandwagon willingly or whatever, for whatever reason. They've jumped on the bandwagon to join with this dark entity, if it call it Lucifer or Satan or whatever name you want to apply to it. Everything is perverted in their thinking, and they don't seem to have any compassion whatsoever, no empathy. I don't even know if they have empathy for their own children. I wonder sometimes, because it's reported that children of these elite families have also suffered tremendous abuse themselves. So is any goodness and any empathy and compassion just beaten out of them at a very early age so that it becomes almost impossible for them to transform? I know transformation is possible. I mean, I've seen that with, I forgot her name, the lady that was let out of, God, I don't know why I think of her, but then I don't think of the other part, which is her name, so that you could understand who I'm talking about. But she was abused and used as a sex slave for the elite and was ready to be snuffed, but she was saved by one of the insiders that realized what was going to happen and pulled her out and got her daughter out. Many of you will know who I'm talking to, and still, as I keep talking about it and giving other details of it, I don't remember her name. In any case, folks, we need a turnaround. I don't want to die and not fulfill my mission to help bring the kingdom of heaven to earth. And the kingdom of heaven is love. It's joy. It's peace. It's not about control and war. It's about freedom, real freedom. And that's what we all long for, don't we? If you're listening to me, don't you long to be free of the power grid of control that has enslaved this planet and its inhabitants for such a long time? Even the very animals are abused. Everything is abused. They slash and burn forests and things that took centuries, perhaps decades and centuries to build up, and they just destroy it without thought. We live in such a sick culture, and something has to give. Something has to change. And I call on whatever the loving creator is, if there is a loving creator. Some people have given up completely. Friends that I know have given up completely and don't even believe there is a God. And they actually have meetings where they talk about there being no God. I mean, I've never been to one of them, but I'm told they do have meetings of atheists anonymous, and they want to remain anonymous, I guess. But in any case, folks, I would like to see the promises that I've believed since I was a little boy actually come to pass in my lifetime. People tell me, Ron, it isn't going to happen in your lifetime. It's going to take hundreds more years. I hope that's wrong. I really do. Anyway, I close on the note that my daughter is in the hospital, and I ask for those of you who will to pray. She seems to have a very severe pneumonia, and she's been trying to work through it, hoping it'll pass, but it's only progressively gotten worse. Anyway, keep her in your prayers, and thank you very much again for listening. Namaste.